mention the word connection, what comes first into your mind? Your homies, your besties, your family, or your people? Surely all these answers above are correct. Connection is why we're here. Connection is the foundation of our existence in this society, as we're constantly trying to find a spot for ourselves. But not all connections are the same. Some are fleeting. We know how people on LinkedIn expand their connections to 500 plus to get an incredible amount of likes on LinkedIn generated comments. This is one type of connection, obviously not authentic. There's another type of connection, one that is deeply embedded in our lives, yet we don't always recognize it. It's when we hold back our true thoughts, agree just to keep the peace, and hide parts of ourselves to maintain relationships. Why do we do this? Well, at its core, we are wired for connections. We fear exclusion. How about instead of saying connections of people, we see these connections of ideas, connections between ideas. We recognize them as connection when we share a common value, when we find something similar between us, when we feel included in this world because we know the people back there are not cruel. If the collision of ideas is what brings us together, then rejection, being unheard, misunderstood, or dismissed feels like being pushed out. And this is where things get complicated, because what we crave most, connection, may also cause what we fear most, disconnection. They're like two sets of coins. The act of reaching out opens the possibility of both acceptance and rejection. We crave belonging, but the fear of exclusion makes us hesitate. We want to be heard and accepted, but the fear of judgment keeps us silent. The reason that people hesitate to start a connection happens to be the fear of disconnection at the first stage. We might think to ourselves, what if they reject me? What if I'm not worthy to build a connection with him or her? And this is what we call it shame and fear. If there anything that once people discovered it, that I would not be worthy to be connected to, a fear of rejection, a fear of shame. When you share an idea and it's dismissed, it's easy to internalize that rejection as a denial of you, your worth, your person, and vice versa. This perception can create a dangerous cycle where we stop trying. We convince ourselves that it's safer to not put ourselves out there at all. A thought experiment I would pose: 2 kids sit together watching the sky. One of them points out and says the sky is blue, yet the other one says it's gray. The kid hesitates, confusion creeping in. How is something so obvious to be seen so differently? He couldn't dismiss the claim of the sky is gray, insisting on what he knows to be true, or he could ask, why? And finds out it's because his friend is colorblind. Their eyes perceive lights in a different way. The sky has not changed, only the way it's understood. What first feels like a rejection of truth might actually be a different way of seeing this world. Now let's bring this back to human connection. The more we fear rejection, the less we open up. The less we open up, the harder it becomes to truly connect. We hesitate because we assume that being misunderstood or being judged means we don't belong. But what if rejection isn't the end of the conversation? What if, instead of shutting down, we open our minds and sought to understand? This is where vulnerability comes in. To break the cycle of shame and fear, we need to take the risk of being seen. We need to allow others to see us fully, despite the thing we feel shameful about. Vulnerability isn't about proving you're right. It's about willing to be seen even when the answer isn't clear. Many people hear vulnerability and think it means weakness as we expose ourselves, opening up to pain, giving others a chance to hurt us. But here, vulnerability is about engagement. It's the moment you step forward, take action, speak up, despite your fear. It is courage in action, to show up as you are, without guarantees in an expected response. It's about taking risks, not physical ones, but emotional ones. In Brené Brown's TED Talks, she talks a lot about really big vulnerabilities, saying, I love you first, firing someone who works for you for a long time. But there are actually many small things that are vulnerable for many people sitting here today. Telling other people you're great on a test, or even asking someone out for a date. Vulnerability is what makes everything meaningful in life possible. But it can be terrifying, and I get it. When we allow others to see our real selves, including our flaws, our fears, our doubts, we give them the power to reject us. And that is the reason why most of us avoid vulnerability, because we think, if I don't let others see the real me, they won't even have a chance to reject the real me. But here's the problem. When we close ourselves off from rejection, we also close ourselves off from connection. That's a paradox. The very thing we are afraid of, being seen or potentially rejected, is also the only thing that allows us to be truly accepted. To build true connections, we need to take the risk of showing up as ourselves, even when we feel shame, even when we feel rejection. Because hiding your shame doesn't make it go away. Pretending something doesn't exist doesn't mean it's not shaping you. The only way to move past shame is to face it head on, and that requires vulnerability. Let me tell you a quick story. At the start of a summer program I attended in the University of Waterloo, 54 teenagers came from across Canada. Most of the strangers were split into random groups, given 1 hour to prepare and told to make a performance in front of everyone. It felt chaotic, awkward, and if I'm being honest, deeply embarrassing. Some groups said, never gonna give you up. Some group twirled like snowflakes to let it go. Normally, after something like that, you like to lock yourself in a dorm and avoid eye contact for a month. But we couldn't, because that program was unplugged. No phones, no easy escape. We had no choice but to communicate, collaborate, and lean into the discomfort. This is where the power of vulnerability started working. We let go of the pressure to be perfect. Everyone has seen each other's most hidden imperfections, and something surprisingly happened. The walls between us started to crumble. Conversations formed more naturally, and trust began to grow. Thus, solid and strong connections were built. And even now, after more than 6 months of long distance, they remain just as strong. Another thing which is essential in the transformation from vulnerability to connection is empathy. We are not the only individuals afraid. Everyone carries the fear of rejection. Everyone has moments of self-doubt. Everyone worries. Think about a time when someone was vulnerable with you. They were assuming good intent from you. They assume that you won't judge. You understand. You realize that deep down, everyone wants the same thing: to be seen, to be heard, and to be accepted. That's the power of empathy. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we give others the permission to do the same. When people hesitate to start a meaningful connection, certain fears and doubts seem to surface again and again. They carry weight, as you can see. But I think tightly. One thing in common is the lack of worthiness. A quote from Dr. Brown's TED Talk suggests that the thing that keeps us out of connection is our feeling that we are unworthy of connection. Think about this for a moment. If you don't believe you're worthy of love, do you let yourself be loved? If you don't believe your voice matters, do you even speak up? If you don't believe you belong, do you try to connect? The truth is, when we don't see our own worth, we struggle to let others see it too. And this is where vulnerability and worthiness go hand in hand, because you cannot embrace your vulnerability unless you believe you're worthy of love and belonging. In fact, many people who build the most deepest and authentic connections aren't necessarily the ones who are the most confident or the most social. They're the ones who believe they're enough. And because they believe that, they don't need to prove it to anyone. They don't hide behind perfections. The deepest connections aren't built on being flawless. They're built on being real. They show up as they are. Brené Brown calls those people wholehearted. They're the ones who fully embrace their vulnerability because they know that vulnerability isn't weakness, it is strength. It is the courage to say, this is who I am, I'm worthy of connections, I would like to share my thoughts with you because I hope we can make a true, authentic, meaningful, and long-lasting connection. Now let's make it clear. Shame is an intensely painful feeling that we are unworthy of love and belonging. While shame tells us to hide, vulnerability asks us to show them. Because the deepest connections, the boldest ideas, the greatest joys in life, they all begin at the edge of uncertainty. Assuming good intent and the courage is the key to vulnerability. I like to use what the professor said to end the speech. You can go through your life being guarded and avoid getting hurt by all those nasty people out there. Or you can fully open up yourself with everyone, assuming they won't hurt you. Put yourselves out there. Go first. Set an example, taking the first step. Trust. Remember, you are all worthy of love and belonging, and all seeking love and belonging. Work actively for your connection. It's why we are here. Vulnerability happens to be what we fear most and what we need most. When we fully embrace our vulnerability, we create something powerful. A world where people feel safe to open up, share honesty, seen, accepted, and truly connected. Thank you.